Hi, Basya.
Hey, Motty, how are you? It's good to
Welcome.
be here.
Okay. It's I've been like waiting to have this conversation. It's like we spoke of a lot of other things before the last retreat. So I've been looking forward for this conversation because I actually have questions, and specifically like you joined the retreat, which had nothing to do with weight loss. While for me, weight loss is such a close and important area of my life that I haven't mastered, and I want to learn so much about.
Yeah,
Because I have a journey with my weight since I'm young of I'm losing weight, dieting, gaining back, dieting, getting back,
yeah.
dieting, feeling weak, feeling like I'm sick, but really it has to do with the food I'm eating. So I have this relationship. And when you shared the first time we spoke, you're sharing with me that your background is as a weight loss coach, and then you learned that there are things underneath it. And I'm like, I think I had a heart opening or a goosebump moment because I'm like, there's no coincidence that you're reaching out for the retreat, which each retreat is my work and my journey. I'm like, there's no coincidence that that's what you do in your background. That's where you have so much knowledge and experience, and that's how. So I'm excited to have this conversation finally. I've been waiting. I go
Likewise.
to
I just want to say that, like, I find it funny that we met and we work together and we really know each other, and this is like a whole untapped territory. So I'm like
yes,
super excited for you to get to know this side of what I'm passionate about.
and maybe you can share a little bit of your background.
Yeah.
Like, how'd you get into the health coach
To
industry?
be clear, I don't consider myself a health coach. I consider myself a transformation coach. And so what I think when I think about the word transformation, I think about change, inner change that has outer results. And so that could be, I could be coaching somebody on business and I could be coaching somebody on weight loss. And it's doing the inner work, and that starts to show up on the outside. I did have my roots in weight loss coaching. Before that, I did other things, but in the weight loss coaching, there was always the understanding that there's more. This is an inner thing usually going on. Although I'll add to that sometimes it's not. Sometimes it's very much strategic in terms of people just really do not know what how to eat in a way that is enjoyable and balanced and still maintain a healthy body weight. So that's kind of education. But assuming that somebody does know or has a general sense of it, and is still not doing it, even deeper than emotional eating. And when I say deeper, I mean deeper rooted emotions, so trauma and things like that. On the flip side, things that are in the here and now that sort of get in the way, whether they're busy or they're distracted or they're overwhelmed, or they don't prioritize self-care because they prioritize other people's needs. And then all those things sort of play into it. Before I actually did anything else, I wanted to be a therapist. I was advised not to because based on my nature, my mom, who's very smart, told me that I'm going to be carrying too much heaviness. I'm going to be carrying the
Mm,
weight, the weight of the world. And I listened to her, and I actually got my degree in education and special ed, helping kids feel great, even if they weren't succeeding in the classroom, but also helping them succeed in the classroom. So still able to kind of use my passion. Then I had 5 kids in 7 years, and all of a sudden my kids were the same age as my students, and they were in first grade and second grade. And I felt like I was doing this all day and I was doing this all night. And I felt like it was time to leave. And when I left, actually at Shalom Task Force, which is an organization that helps prevent and help women who are in abusive situations. And I was leading a team of therapists. And I felt like, like I ended up there because that's where I always belonged. But ultimately it wasn't exactly the right fit. And when I left there, I was like, okay, well, I've got 5 kids and I don't know what I want to do with myself when I grow up. And I'd always had this like passion towards weight loss because I'd felt this, struggle. I did have some struggles with my weight, but in general, I just had a struggle of not feeling good in my body. Because I was a lot taller and am a lot taller than everybody else around me. So when I was in seventh, we're sitting, so you can't see, but you've met me, so I'm 5'9" and I'm really tall. And I have been that tall since about 7th or 8th grade. So as soon as I hit 7th or 8th grade, I was taller than all my teachers, taller than all my friends, taller than my principals. And I had I was not overweight. I had just discomfort in my body. And so I really relate to that piece of, of just wanting to feel a person wanting to feel good in their body. I was very athletic. I loved to eat and I was very athletic, and I would just like eat and play and swim and, and rollerblade. And I never gained any weight until I stopped growing. And then when I stopped growing, I also started gaining weight. So then I was tall and bulkier and bigger, and I felt even more uncomfortable in my body. So, in about 10th grade was probably my first diet. And it was torture, and I killed myself. I didn't know what I was doing. This was back when like fat free was, if you want to lose weight, go fat free. So I was like eating fat free Pringles and fat free pretzels and fat free bagels. I was getting fatter, and I just didn't know what I was doing. So that's what I mean about the strategic piece. It wasn't emotion, at that point it wasn't emotional. Strategic.
Yeah.
And so before things got better, like they got worse. And so I had a little bit of a history in that. And, when I was sort of in between the teaching position and the therapy position, I was like, I would like to help people feel good in their bodies, figure out, and ultimately I found my way to losing weight in a healthy, balanced place. And I'm skipping for the sake of time, but, then I was like, that will be the perfect combination of everything. I can help people, but it won't be that heavy, because it's at the end of the day, it's about food. That was then. And I can help people lose weight, and I can help people feel good in their body. And I use my passion without going into like this therapist heavy kind of mode where I'm carrying so much. So then I got a job working in a weight loss company. But my approach was always, let's develop a normal, healthy, balanced relationship with food. And I sort of fit that in even within the context of this, diet center type of place that I was working at. The more I did it, the more I saw that the work is inside, the work is inside, the work is inside. And I was doing that in inner work, but sort of in the confines of the context of this weight loss program. So then when I left about a year and a half ago to open my own practice, the approach became much more so about doing the inner work. And I have to say it's kind of heavier than it was because we get very real. It's inner work. It's challenging. It's rewarding. And, so that brings me to transformation coaching.
So it's more of a, first of all, thank you. I had no, I told you before we got on, like your journey is what inspires people. I know this is what inspires me.
Yeah.
It's one thing that you have a shop. It's a whole other thing that I relate to the journey.
Yeah.
And I think that goes for people that are listening and watching. There's so much information available. Like I can ask AI anything, but AI can't answer about your story and specifically your words.
Yeah.
So thank you for sharing that. I appreciate it. It sheds light in what you're passionate about.
It gives
now.
a little context of why I care so much too. Yeah.
Yeah. So I would think that the awareness that I have around my internal defenses, triggers, fears, worries, and my clarity around what causes me to want to eat emotionally would be enough for me to be in my ideal feeling in my body. I'm not going to say my ideal weight. Like the way I feel in my body, I think that with the work that I've been doing, therapy, and the clarity I have would work. And until recently, it hasn't.
Yeah.
Like there was a piece of all of it that didn't come together for many years. And sometimes throughout in the last 15 years, sometimes because I was at a good weight, so I didn't have to worry about it. And sometimes because I wasn't at a good weight. I wasn't in a healthy place with my body. Yeah. But either way, the clarity that I had in my mind, and even around my emotions, didn't
keep you at a healthy weight. Yeah.
Didn't sync up. And to me, weight is one of these things that it's like, it's a mystery. Like what's going on?
Can I resolve your mystery? I think, so I think that if you only focus on the emotional world, right? The same way if we just focus on the food, we're pretty much missing the point. And you can make all the, all the structure and strategy. If you only focus on the emotional world, there's a couple things that go on. Number one is that means that we are demanding of you, Motty, that you need to be emotionally tuned in all the time, right? And even for somebody who is emotionally healthy, right, and able to handle their emotions and can hold their emotions, right, they're not always tuned into their emotions, and it's not realistic because you have
which is why it's not working.
Yes, because when you're aware of it, you can hold it, and you're open to, and you're strong enough, and you're right, and you're healthy enough to. But you have a job, and you have a life, and you're busy, and you're distracted, and you may also be going 5 or 6 hours without eating, and so you're starving, right? And now you're trying to use the fix of, well, I know how to hold my emotions, right? But you're starved and you're distracted, and you haven't even been you haven't even, just because you know how to hold your emotions and you're in a healthy emotional space doesn't mean you've been doing it. And I think that that's the distinction between intuitive eating, right? Intuitive eating is really asking you to always be tuned in. And you're telling me, when I'm tuned in, I'm good, but somehow it's not translating to my weight. And that's because it's really unrealistic, I believe, to ask of somebody to always be tuned in.
Right. And for me, specifically around the emotional
Yeah.
fix solution,
Yeah.
is because I know people that do that
Yeah.
by
Yeah.
nature. They're always tuned in to what their body
Right.
needs. So I keep thinking that all I need to do is do the same thing and problem
Yeah,
solve.
and it could be that it is, but that would actually be harder than what I'm going to lay out for you, right? It means constantly
Yeah,
be,
for me.
yeah, for many people, right? And so, but most people who are in an intuitive eating experience, right, or trying to follow an intuitive eating experience, understand that the demand of them is that's required is that you need to be always tuned in. Otherwise, it's not going to work. And my approach is I want to be able to tune in when I'm feeling it. But I understand that there will be many opportunities where I may miss it, right? I also understand that there just may be many opportunities where if I've gotten so far in terms of not gone so many hours without food, this is not an emotional thing. This is like a primal thing. Like now I'm just gobbling, like meaning it's like, it's not about self-control and it's not about tuning into my emotions. It's about just being ice hungry. It's like having an accident, right? You have to pee and you hold it for so long and maybe it's because you're busy and distracted, right? And then you have an accident and then you say, well, I should have held it in emotionally.
So that's where the strategic
Yes.
piece comes
And
in.
so my
Like
approach
to
is,
understand,
yeah, so
to
my
understand
approach is that
yeah.
you need to do the emotional work. You need to have a strategy in place from the outside in that contains all this, right? Like meaning certain checklist of eating at a certain times so that you don't get to that point. And then there's also mindset work that gets, that comes in, because how do we relate to slipping up or failing or messing up? Do we get back on track? How do we relate to success? Do we let down our guard in either way? Right. And so there's all those pieces also. So it's really not either emotional or strategic. It's emotional, strategic, and mindset all kind of combined.
Right. So the picking one or the other. So now let's not talk about
Right.
me. So the other option is that it's only strategic, which is a little bit of your intro.
That's the diet. That's the diet approach. If you had to pick a model, that'd be like a cognitive behavioral approach.
Yeah, or worse.
Yeah, and if we're talking about restrictive dieting, then we're like we're not only not fixing, we're actually creating a bigger problem, because now we're creating a situation where if we're hungry or deprived or missing a certain food group or missing carbs is by definition not sustainable. And then as soon as we don't sustain it, we feel like we failed, and there goes a cycle, right?
Right, which is why like the dieting it'll only work as long as it works, and then gaining back the weight is such a common pattern.
Yes, but even if we take restrictive dieting or dieting out, we still need the emotional piece. The strategic piece does need to be ongoing. There is a certain like responsibility.
Right. So what I'm hearing is a distinction between dieting and a strategy.
Correct.
Different, very different things.
You nailed it.
Having the clarity that there is a actual there's actual biological needs in my body.
Yes.
And diet is
correct.
Two different words.
You said that perfectly. You nailed it. Meaning, I don't promote dieting. I'm against dieting. I think it does more harm than good, both physically and psychologically. But I still believe that there needs to be a strategic. I call it a game plan. There's got to be a game plan in place, or you can call it a structure or a game plan. So and that's the strategic end. So strategy, game plan, and it's not about a diet. And that strategic piece involves eating without learning how to eat, regularly in a timely fashion that maximizes the metabolism, right? Meaning just eating all your food late at night is not a strategy. Incorporating not just every food group, but the idea that food should taste good and should feel good and should not just be a source of energy, but can also be a source of pleasure. And making sure we have all those pieces, right? So if I,
and then diet, that's not even possible.
In diet, that's not even possible.
At least the way diet is considered now.
And then if you can say, well, then it's a nicer diet that allows for a treat, but it's still this mindset of allowed and this and that.
Right. So it's really powerful when I change the word of what I'm doing and I relate to it in a new language, and that opens possibilities of holistic a holistic approach to my
Yeah.
body and to my weight and to my food and to my energy.
Yeah. And also to your humanness, right? If we're busy or distracted or we're, or disappointed, whatever it is. And so, it's not an objective thing. It's like, it's subjective also to a certain extent to, you and, subjective or customized, and takes into consideration, not feeling deprived and wanting to enjoy and wanting to participate in simchas or wanting to participate in things like that, because all of those things are real and they're valid.
With this mindset, you're considering, or I'm considering both. I'm considering how my body works and what it
Yeah.
needs. I'm considering also what are the triggers or what are the stories that I tell myself,
Yeah.
which I can maybe resolve and then have a cleaner relationship with
Yeah,
food.
exactly. And so, what ends up happening is that we repair the relationship with food, because for many of my clients, food is love, hate, or food is something that we're dependent on or codependent or avoidant, or, and then we start to see this food not just as healed, but actually as the gift of allowing us to then go and heal on the inside, right? And so if I'm struggling with my food, first of all, that's not the problem. That's actually the cue that there's some work to do inside, and then we can go in there and we can do that work. And
Yeah.
so it's actually
Yeah, Robert Jacobson says addiction isn't the problem, it's the
it's the
solution.
solution. And food, I say that's my line for food. Food is not the problem. It's maybe the poorly executed, very not good side effects solution, but it's still, it's still the solution.
Yeah, so when I look at what I really need, and then I can address it, and I can actually take care of myself in a deeper
Yeah,
way. And then when it comes to food, I can have actually the strategic perspective on it.
correct. Cool.
Understand that it's an energizer and it's a
Yeah,
gift
yeah,
and it's
yeah, and
fun
it's fun.
because I dealt with what I really need.
Right.
And now food is left to have a good time. It's a
Exactly. I'll
gift.
give you a perfect
It's a gift
example.
from Hashem.
Somebody came to me today and she says, "I'm great all week. Shabbos, I lose it." Right? I said, "Why do you lose it Shabbos?" She said, "Because I just want to chill." I said, "How do you feel after not chilled?" Right? So, right, not chilled at all. I feel crappy. Right? So then let's strategize what amount and what you need so that you feel like you're chilling, and where's that boundary, and then that's the strategy, right? And
Where's it
it's going to be
stop?
different
Yeah.
for you and for me, but saying I just want to chill is misunderstanding human nature.
Which also happens with time. Like sometimes it takes time to notice how it doesn't
Yeah,
work. I know this with myself. It takes time to learn
yeah,
things. So the next question that pops into my head is, isn't it so easy to, like, with acceptance piece? Like, I accept that I fall, I accept that I mess up, I accept my human side. And the next thought that I have is what I hear a lot also, like in other areas
yeah,
of
yeah,
growth. It's like, could it even work?
yeah,
Like, and I'll lay out the question. It's like, okay, so I'm doing good,
yeah,
I'm in tune, and then something happens because I'm
right,
human, like you said,
right,
and then I go and I eat
yeah,
whatever, and my calorie intake is ridiculous, and I just messed up a whole
yeah.
week of
Awesome.
well regulating. So how in the world am I ever going to lose the weight,
Awesome. So now you
or
just now
how
you
how
just
am I
hit
ever going to do
on you just
better?
that's gold. So now you just hit on one of my big pillars, which is understanding how change happens, right? And it's patience, persistence, resilience. There's a couple different pillars that I have, but can you tell me right now that with this new mindset, you will never slip?
Again, with a new
With this
mindset, I'm
mindset,
never
with
going
what
to
I'm sharing
slip.
with you right now,
No,
if
no,
I
no,
had
no.
create a strategy for you and a game plan and the
I can't say that I'm not going to
hell
slip.
no, right? Good. So now we know we're going to slip, right? So then the question is, how graceful are you? Do you slip and fall and take 2 weeks and rethink your whole purpose in life, or do you just say oops, my bad, and get back up? And that's actually something that that's what I mean by mindset work, which is that, right? So we talked about emotion, we talked about strategy. Now you're getting to my third piece of this whole approach, which is the mindset, right? Meaning the mindset is, now I get into this place where I'm rethinking everything, and maybe this is never going to work, and I'm going to give up, and I'm frustrated and I'm disappointed, and so maybe I just don't care, and right. And then we can go and we can say that mindset brings along with it all those emotions, right? But the thought process there is, maybe this is just going to never work, right?
Yeah.
And I will just tell you,
No, from an emotional level, it'll work. I'll feel better, I'll be better, but from a very personal, physical, like, my body just will never come to a place where it's balanced, because I'll do good 5 days and I'll mess up,
so
and I'm never going to
so
lose that
what we
weight.
what I work on with people is the not what does success look like, just getting, not because we all know what success is going to look like. it's right. It's going to look like weight loss, right? What does failure look like, right? And getting comfortable with this idea that you're going to slip and you're going to go into this mindset of I'm never going to get there, or maybe I'll just never be balanced, right? And I would work with you towards getting better at slipping and just saying, oh,
Yeah.
oops. And then the third piece after a slip up is learn, right? Which means what went wrong? What can I do to prevent it next time? I can't prevent all the future problems, but I can at least not make the same mistake over and over and over again. And eventually we run out of mistakes if we're willing to learn.
Or we run out of mistakes that's not going to allow the growth to
Yeah,
happen.
exactly. Right. I mean,
Like all I want to do, I don't want to get it down to zero.
correct.
With a good mindset, I want to get it down just below so there's enough positive momentum,
Correct.
and that
And if I
changes everything
slip
later.
and now I have to rethink my whole life, I have to take 3 weeks off and I have to fast for 3 weeks and then I go back on my diet, which was never supposed to be a diet to begin with, right? Versus if I slip, I figure out what went wrong, I fix it for the next time so so I don't make repeated mistakes with the, and I carry on. Your slip ups won't even bring such big questions because they're such small slip ups. All I did was trip on a sidewalk. I didn't fall off a cliff, right? And so we work to a place where our slip ups happen, just much more seamlessly, and then we get the learning from it, and we just carry on.
Yeah, I mean, since the beginning of this conversation, I can't help myself thinking that this is a word-to-word conversation about the relationship with money.
Everything,
Yeah,
money, life. Thank you for leading me to that. The reason I actually care about all this is because this is change, this is growth, you could talk about money, you could talk about spirituality, you could talk about relationships, you can talk about everything, and we're having the exact
for me,
same pillars.
for me, money stands out. First of all, because of what I'm working on in my life. It's budgeting and balancing and becoming better at it. And we speak about this a lot.
Yeah,
About
I think it's going to lead
about
us
sales,
there.
and about I actually prepared it on one of the conversations that I want to have for today. But yeah, so but specifically because of the payoff. Like, I mean, the cause, not
Cost benefit
the cause and
analysis.
effect.
Yeah,
The cause benefit analysis are so
yeah,
similar because it has such a direct,
yes,
in a real time relationship.
yes,
It's like my weight and my trigger and my story, and to balance that balance sheet of calories.
totally,
Because calories and numbers are so
totally,
similar.
totally,
It's like,
totally.
well, I look at my bank account, I look at the scale. It's like, anyway. So to me,
Yeah, and if you
that's
take every
interesting
single
how
thing we
similar
just
those two
said
are.
and take out the word weight and take out the word money, right? So you have a strategy and a mindset and emotional work for money too, right? And it means that I do the emotional work, but I still have a budget and I still have right? I don't have a
Yeah,
diet,
yeah.
right? I don't have a restrictive budget, but I have a framework of the money in, money out situation.
And the better I have at failing, the better I get back onto what's healthy for
Yeah,
me.
yeah,
And then at some point, it just goes below the dysfunction line enough that I start creating wins for
correct,
myself,
correct.
which is really with
Yeah,
everything. Yeah,
that's what I'm saying. It's really with everything, but for you
yeah,
it
it's
relates
really with
for you it
everything.
relates to money. But that's exactly what I'm
Yeah,
saying, which is it's so exciting
yeah,
for me because this is just really how
yeah,
growth and change and progress happens, and it's not what we're comfortable with. We don't like this to be the
yeah.
reality. It just is.
So, is there a method around? Let's talk about weight
Yeah,
loss with the clarity that it's a good
yeah.
muscle. So, is there a method that you can say works 100% of the time?
If you work 100% of the time, meaning everything I'm asking of you is so simple. Like I'm not asking you to like suffer, but it does mean that I'm either doing the emotional work or the mindset work or the strategic work all the time. So that's the answer really. And there's, I'll give you a better answer in a second, but that's like the real answer because it's not the answer that maybe we want to hear because it means like, wow, there's a lot of work to do. But yeah, as long as I can stay, in my emotional state and my mindset state and my strategic state all the time, it works all the time. Now, realistically speaking, that's super challenging because even if I'm steady, life is not steady. So all of a sudden, somebody finds themselves, in the emergency room with a kid, God forbid, right? And they haven't eaten for 6 hours and now they're starved. And my intention was to do it all the time, but now, right now this, or now I took an overnight flight and I was bored on the flight and I ate extra. And now I don't know if it's Monday or Tuesday and I don't know where right. So to the extent that you can be on all the time, you will get 100% success rate. That's not really how life goes, simply put. Here's the better answer, which is that for most people, if you are willing to keep a food log every single night of every bite you ate, whether you liked it or not, whether it was great. Some people don't want to do it because they feel like, I know what I ate and I was perfect, so why bother? And then the next day it's, I don't want to look at it because it was a disaster. If you can just consistently keep a food log every single day, all the time, I mean, never missing a day of keeping a food log, you're halfway there because, or 3/4 of the way there, because it forces you to stay mindful and present and emotionally aware, no matter what's on that food.
Every aspect of myself.
Yeah, so it's
that's going to bring up my feelings, and I need to work on it.
Let's bring it home to money.
Yeah.
If you keep a budget every night of money in, money out, you're 3/4 of the way there, even if you overspent or underspent. So the magic bullet to getting a yes to your answer is committing to keeping a consistent food log till 120.
I had a conversation on my last podcast, which is going to come out in a few days. We had a conversation about money and abundance. Success is the other word. I'm going to title it abundance, but we're talking about success and making it. And it was like, if there's one thing that a business needs and personal finances need, if there's one thing, if I have to pick one, is to constantly go back to looking at the numbers.
Yeah, same idea.
No matter what happens, even if I stopped, I go back to looking. What do I do next? I'm so overwhelmed.
Exact same
I look
idea.
at the numbers. I look at the numbers. And what you're saying is, I did not see this coming.
I didn't see.
But
that's cool.
I thought you were going to give me a 4-step formula that works 100% of the time.
I'm giving you the one step 3-minute formula to being 90% there. But again, this has to be within the framework of, I'm taking care of my physical needs and emotional needs in a timely fashion. We need to eat every 2-3 hours, relatively good amount. I can give you kind of like the whole game plan and strategic piece al regalachas, but even more importantly is this magic bullet right here. If your listeners are going to take away one thing, it's keep a food log. It keeps you aware. It keeps you checked in. Even knowing that I'm going to write it means that I'm aware. And if I'm aware, I'm 3/4 of the way there.
Yeah, for me, the way this works, like I need another intervention for even this goal. It's to start again.
Yeah.
It's to know to start again. Someone asked me a while ago, like, how do you stay committed? How do you do ice baths every day?
Yeah.
I'm like, I don't. I learned recently, the last 2 years of my life, how to start again. And it's been a real game changer for me. With a lot of things, I really learned how to start again. And my focus stopped being about doing it all the time or it really became about starting again, things that are very important.
I mean, I would just add to that I would explore the resistance to starting again, because it would be telling you something, and it might be telling you that there was a piece missing, or that there's a strategic piece, right? There's some, like, if you just start again and do it the same way, you might end up in the same thing.
Yeah. For me, that means with the work that comes with it. It's like you were teaching manifestation on the retreat.
Yeah.
The bell rang when you said, well, that's work that needs to be worked on.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, so there isn't like a magic pill?
Yeah.
And you're like, no, honey, there isn't. There's actual work that comes with it. So, yeah, for me, starting again, I would
I like that I'm consistent, because you asked me about this too. Is there a magic bullet that works every time, or something that works every time? And it's if you work 100% of the time, then it works 100% of the time.
Right.
So there's that piece.
So it sort of plays off that.
Yeah, I have a term for it. I call it the BBB, which is you become a better bouncer backer. Just doing it, to the best of your capability, and that when we slip, we become a BBB, a better bouncer backer, and that's true for all things.
If someone considers their weight journey or their relationship with their body journey for the first time listening to this, what's a first step for them?
Eating, because a lot of people, especially if they're overweight and they're struggling with their food, they're probably trying to diet, right? Which means that there's probably a certain level of restriction, right? And so it would be about, and that could be because of dieting, or it could also just be because I'm busy. I speak to a lot of men, especially, who they literally just go the whole day without food, and women too. They're busy, and so prioritizing eating prevents overeating. That's like a big yesod. And the issue was never the eating. The issue was the overeating for most people. And again, there are some people with metabolic issues, and we would want to assess that also, or all sorts of issues. But all things working, right? My first step would be eating, which means that I don't go a whole Friday without food and then try to restrict my challah. I eat all Friday breakfast, a snack, lunch, another snack before, something before Shabbos, like that, and then have a moderate piece of, challah.
So that's a productive first step. And I think the step after is to keep a log. So I have the awareness.
Eating, right? Meaning
And then,
prioritizing eating. I'll just put it out there: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Again, I'll say it for your listeners: breakfast, snack, lunch, snack, dinner. Anybody who's listening that has children who are, sort of maybe unburdened by this. I don't know if you had this as a child, but take a child who's unburdened. They eat a bowl of cereal or breakfast before they go, have a recess, they have lunch, they have a second recess, they come home and maybe have something small or dinner, maybe a little something after. We kind of look towards there for just like, what does eating look like? Another thing that children do that we can take our cues from is they eat early, they eat often, and they finish early. So they don't go long stretches. They don't start breakfast at 11, right? They don't
right.
eat dinner at 10 p.m., right? So they eat early, they eat often, they end early. That's actually the best for the metabolism. Until we start eating during the day, we're not really burning. We're like just on like slow cooker crock pot mode. So and that's why we're not hungry. But if we eat, then we will
And
be.
the body
Yeah, the
starts
body starts burning.
works.
Right,
It
exactly. So we want to
activates.
be in a metabolic state where we're burning. The difference between the day and the night is that at night the natural state is low, and eating doesn't help.
Which is
And
where
eating doesn't
intermittent
help.
fasting
So
really,
eating late, actually, everything just kind of
yeah.
sticks.
So which is where intermittent fasting is such a hit.
Yeah, intermittent
So,
fasting has a lot of good benefits because what happens after hour 13 and hour 13 and 14 is that the body goes into ketosis. And so you're burning extra fat. The issue is that the effects of ketosis versus the effects of just a good metabolism all day long. I would actually choose a good metabolism all day long. So I would never do intermittent fasting at the expense of getting an early.
yeah, so they have it broken down in
Yeah,
different. Some of them don't seem like
yeah.
fasting, but they're super
Yeah,
healthy.
that's the ones I
Like
like. The
some of
14-hour
them is
fast is the one I like, which
the
is
14 hours seems like it does nothing, but it might just do
it's
everything.
perfect.
I've been really thinking of that. I'm like, oh, it doesn't do anything. Watch me a year on it and let's see what it
Yeah,
does.
yeah. But more importantly than learning which fasting is right is learning how to eat. That's really what I'm trying to
Yeah,
give over to your listeners.
yeah,
Like
yeah,
eat
yeah.
early,
So
eat
I get,
often, end
yeah,
early. Don't cut out full food
yeah.
groups. Eat nutritiously, but also some, good food.
Right. So when I focus on taking care of my body, of giving my body what it needs, and I learn to be in tune with that, the rest comes
Yeah, yeah.
naturally. It's
And if
easy.
you're going to try to do the emotional work when your body's starved, you're going to have a whole mismatch of you don't even know what you're working with. If I'm eating crap and sugar all the time, so I have enough calories and I have spikes, but I have these spikes and these crashes and these craves, and now I'm like craving food, and I'm like, oh, maybe this is, what my mother did to me when I was 6 years old. No, you're in like a real metabolic state, right? So we want to be mindful of I want to eat nourishly and nutritiously and right nourished and strength, and I want to enjoy it. But I also want to be cautious about not putting myself into a state where I like my hands are almost tied because I'm in this.
Yeah, that doesn't work in the long term, which is
Yeah,
makes a lot of
yeah,
sense. So moving on to a little bit of a
yeah.
different,
Shifting gears.
the same, and just shifting to a little aspect of this, because you're talking about the holistic relationship with
Yeah,
things, holistic relationship with money, holistic relationship with food, and really apply to everything else. Can generalize men and women, but if you generalize
yeah.
stereotypically, is there a different? Do you find men to have a different struggle than women in these pieces?
On the surface, the women are dealing a lot more with the emotional, right? And I think that you relate to the feminine energy of that. And the men, for the most part, oftentimes just not eating through the day, and then they're eating too much at night just because they're busy at work or whatever it is, and
So you find men having a pattern of not eating,
not eating and then
and
eating.
and
Women too, but those are the ones who are, not comfortable with self-care and things like that. For the men, it's not really about self-care. It's more just their head is in business and they don't eat all day and then they eat too much at night.
and when you start working on layers, you have these three different pieces. Do you find that men have more resistance to either of these parts, or
Well,
it's
what
across the
ends up
board?
happening, the second piece that happens, right, is that men just even more so than women, they both just want the weight off. That desire actually amplifies every failure, right? So now if I want,
Right.
right, and it double, right, and so it actually make that desire itself makes things worse. And men have that a little bit more strongly, that they just want it done and fast and now, and just tell me what to do and I'll grab this weight off. And I don't want to do
Mm.
patience. I don't want to do time. I don't want to go inward, right? And the women, to a certain extent, are more willing to tap into their emotional world and do the inner work, right? And so men could spend a lifetime of just grabbing that weight off and gaining it back and grabbing that weight off and gaining it back because they're more
Mm.
resistant to going inward, right? But many men are just not comfortable in their inner world.
I get that a lot. What's the point? It's not even a problem.
Yeah,
Like I have a whole lot to say on that
it's a whole
question, but I
other
really want to
topic. I have a
get.
lot to
I want to
say
hear. I
too.
want to hear your contrast to it. I don't want
Yeah.
what I know. I want.
I work 90% with women because the 10% of the men that I work with are willing to do the inner, the men who say, I just want these 30 pounds off and, tell me what, I won't take their money. I'm not worth it. Go find a diet. I charge a lot of money. Go find Google a diet and follow it. Right. So the men, but
Yeah, AI
yeah, so
diet.
when a man is ready to do the inner work and or is so inclined to, so then I'll take them on. But I don't. Many of my clients actually, it's not even about the food for women. It's just about the men who want this belly off or they're sick or whatever. The women have this knowledge also of this emotional thing going on at the same
So
time.
you don't have to break. You don't have to pitch that.
Correct.
It's clear that
Correct.
that's present.
Correct.
I asked someone today, why, and he's like, I don't know, just because.
There you go.
Like, oh yeah, okay, that I know,
that
but
is
you're
that's
paying me
that's
money.
exactly right. It's exactly right. I,
The next question is it really going to work if I go deeper? And with that, I resonate. I understand the heaviness of going
right.
deeper, and I understand because I'm asking you this about weight loss, like every guy. Like, is it really going to work? Is it if I'm not tackling it like that?
Right.
I'm like, am I going to get my end result?
Right.
And I understand the resistance to wanting to look at the deeper underlying, because what is it really going to do? If I feel the sensations of
Yeah.
pain rather than just fixing it, is it really going to work?
Yeah, because it's
And
hard, right. So then I'll throw it back to them. I'll say, imagine a world, not a painless world, but a world in which you're not going to food to numb this, right? Just picture a world where you're in this state where you can hold your own emotions and you can feel them and you can without even doing anything, right? Where you're just open to feeling that pain and feeling that hurt and feeling that, right? Would you, right? And I always say, if we just cut out the food that we would have eaten over there, how's your weight? Right. And it's usually great.
right, even in that
Yeah.
moment
And if
where
we cut out
yeah,
just that food, the numbing food, right? And now I say, what if we cut out the guilt eating and the shame eating from eating? Like I overate and now I messed up, so I might as well keep going, right? So the guilt and regret, right? And what if we cut out
but for that I have to become aware of when do I feel
there's your
guilty,
food
when do I
log.
feel
Right,
shame.
right,
There it
right. But if
is.
I'm keeping a food log, I know all that, right? I cut out my guilt eating and my regret eating and my shame eating and and then my emotional eating. How's your weight? And usually they'll say it's pretty good.
And for that I need the willingness to actually know what I'm
Yeah.
feeling, so I can know what I'm doing.
Yeah. But meaning, why do I emotional eat? I don't want to feel this, right? What if I do want to feel this? What if I'm open to feeling it? What if I'm strong enough and courageous enough to feel it? I don't need the food anymore, particularly if you're not hungry, because and I'll always add that piece. Remember, you're not on a diet. You're fed. You're sustained. You have enjoyable food and all of that. And so now I'm open to feeling this. I don't now that food becomes unnecessary. Right. And that's the same.
Yeah,
That's the same with the frustration eating and the
yeah,
shame eating and the guilt eating. And so if I can cut out all of that and make sure I'm well fed and having enjoyable and good food and right and
yeah,
all that, I don't really have a weight problem anymore. Right.
yeah,
Because the food was never the problem. So, right. So if I have a
yeah,
healthy relationship with food and I'm able to hold and I'm really able to hold my emotions and my mindsets and all of that, I don't really have a weight problem anymore. Now, can I get there in
yeah.
8 weeks? It's
Yeah,
possible.
so that's the other thing that I generally tell myself and I share with others is like, try 2 years and watch what happens.
Exactly.
And it's something that someone has told me a couple of months ago that really changed my relationship to my own
Yeah.
work. And he said that the ability to be present to emotions is something that has been working for thousands of years. It's not a
Right.
new woke
Right.
thing. This has been working for thousands of years for anyone that has the gift and the courage and
Yeah.
the support and the clarity to enroll
Yeah.
in the
Yeah.
practice.
Yeah.
And that really goes across the board around finances, around having a successful and a loving
Yeah.
marriage, about relationship with the kids, about any kind of struggle. If I'm willing to enroll in this kind of relationship with my
Yeah.
feelings and with my emotions for a longer amount of time, it's been work. It's also the other thing that I spoke to someone yesterday about. It's like, it's interesting how these teachings are found across the board historically in Eastern cultures and Western
Yeah.
cultures, because it's the human biology.
Yeah.
It's the spiritual human
Yeah,
biology, which is
we
pretty
lost
crazy.
it somewhere. Why don't we feel, right? So the answer is because we have escapes where we just don't have to. So it's more comfortable. If I'm cold, I put on a
Right.
sweater, and if I'm hot, if I'm hot, I put on the AC.
Yeah, so this is really helpful. Like, I understand the value in showing up again and again and again,
Yeah.
and it could be, for some people, it's just awareness, a log, an emotions log.
Yeah.
It could be in food, it's a food log. In It's like, when I'm getting the wisdom I'm getting recently is the consistency, not in the results, but consistency in
You,
trying.
yeah, that you keep showing up, you slip more gracefully, and you bounce back more quickly, which is the same thing as, right, meaning showing up, bouncing back, or starting again, like you said with the ice baths. It's all exact same thing. That awareness that we have at all time of what's going on, like you said with the budget, keep going back to the numbers, keep going back to the numbers, keep an eye on the food, right, and then feed yourself. That's like Olive Bay's. Feed yourself, make sure that you're well fed and well cared for when you're going about this business. And that in and of itself can be very challenging for people.
I think the one piece that's really valuable, maybe to close off with, is where you share in the teaching of manifestation, understand what's available. There's a vision that's bigger than today. So while I work on these other things, I understand why I can come back to it.
To me, the idea of manifestation is what you just hit on, which is one of my 6 pillars. Also, besides, there's the 3-pronged approach, which is the strategy and the mindset and the emotional work, and then there's certain pillars. And one of our pillars is having a vision. Some of the other pillars were persistence and perseverance, the things that we spoke about. One of the pillars is having having a vision for ourselves. Believing that we could have good, whether you want to call it Hashem or God or our creator or whatever it is good and wants to give us good. And that we shouldn't play in a little bubble, right? We shouldn't play in a little bubble. We should have whatever you desire, like whatever you desire. Whatever you desire, you can have it, right? And so what gets in the way of that is either our own insecurities or our own disbelief that God could provide it, right? But there really isn't anything in the way of it. Anybody who has more, it's because they wanted more and believed more, right? Look at somebody, right? Give an example. Somebody who born into a wealthy family with plenty of opportunities, right? Same smarts as me, right? But like they've always had a lot, and they expect a lot, and they want a lot, and they get a lot, and then they just go on generally. And again, there's exceptions, and there's but the idea is that if we grew up in tremendous lack, or if our mindset is very restricted, or right, or we don't believe that we could, right, that is why we don't. And so we can talk about it on a universal, psychological way, or in a universal way, or in a God way. But the idea is that we're the ones who block ourselves, right?
Right.
Because of our mindsets and because of our beliefs, not because there actually is a limit. And so if we can't think in unlimited because it's too much of a leap and now I can't believe it anymore, then just expand a little bit more, but then keep expanding,
Right.
and then keep expanding.
So maybe a really healthy first step
Yeah.
could be to understand that there are options and there are possibilities to go beyond what I know now.
Yeah.
And now I can start eating breakfast.
Yeah.
And I can start logging my
Yeah.
food.
And
Understanding that's like there is a dream.
yes, the
And that
good
dream,
is there. The sun is
Yeah.
there. Gravity is there. The good is there. I'm deciding if I'm tapping into it or not tapping into it, and that's right. And again, I'm not saying it's not, that we don't get in our own way. It could be hard. We could be scared. We could be insecure. We could be a million things, right? But that's our work. But the good is there, right? And really, the good is the good from Hashem, who wants to give us
Yeah.
and wants to give us and wants to give us. When we think about what we want, and we believe that we can get it, right? And we remove any doubt, right? And so there has to be we can't think I'm going to have $1 billion today, or I'm going to have a perfect body today, but right, think about something that you want, that you believe you can, that you have no doubt, right? And then take action and go get it, trusting that good is
Right.
coming.
And there could be doubt in certain aspects, but there is a part of a vision that's clean. And that's what I want to tap into before I even do anything.
Yeah, yeah, and you can also do some work to remove that doubt, right? And so,
Yeah.
right, because that's right. If we only go with the cleanest vision, we're playing it really small and really safe.
Yeah. Or not realistic
Or not
either, or
realistic,
too
right? Meaning,
far.
right,
Yeah.
because that's safe also. Because yeah, no, it's like so far out there, right? But you said
Yeah. Like 100 million. It doesn't make a difference between 50 and 100.
exactly,
It's like
exactly.
there's no personal buy-in
Right,
to that
right.
goal.
So, but
It's
if I
like,
make it like I only want to make $6,000 a month, so that's not called manifestation either. That's actually called restriction, right? Meaning you don't keep it so close there, right? Go a little bigger,
so I go to the edge and then I work through the
exactly, and work
resistance.
through
So
those.
I write it
Yeah,
down, I log my food, and I notice the resistance and the
yes,
stories,
and
and I
work
can
through
work my way.
and work through the
Yeah.
doubts, because if it's just a little bit past your limits, so the doubts are not that huge and they're work throughable, right? And how do we remove doubts? We learn more about trusting Hashem, or we learn more about our own capabilities, or we see somebody
Yeah.
else who's doing something
What's
that's
possible.
doing it, and we start to see
Yeah.
what's possible.
But I think that this one piece of manifestation, which is the vision, is a really good piece to understanding the first step in
Yeah,
doing anything.
yeah. See their challenge with food, not as something, not vanity, and not stupidity, and not but as actually a really cool playground where you get to find out about yourself and then learn to take care of our body so that we're healthy. There's so much crap and garbage food all the time, right? That most people die of food related sicknesses, whether it's heart disease, whether it's diabetes, and all of that, right? And so I believe it's actually a gift from Hashem that we have this vanity, that we're supposed to be thin, quote unquote. It actually tempers this lifestyle that we live, where there's just so much garbage. And so it's like, it didn't used to be that thin was like the be all and end all, right? But
Yeah.
that desire kind of supports taking care of ourselves in a healthy way,
Yeah.
which is godly, right? And to see really this whole work not as, it's not really about weight loss, to see it as the biggest gift that you can give yourself, in terms of
Even the
going
struggle.
inwards, and loving yourself and caring about your emotions, going loving and caring for your body, and just like, and then also in terms of the mindset that we spoke about, personal growth, how we grow, how we fail, how we get up, resilience, all that. It's a gift, right? It's not a problem. The weight's not a problem. It's all a gift. And if we can sort of approach it from that angle and that perspective, it loses some of that desperation and heaviness, and it becomes
Yeah.
becomes an act of love.